Okay, welcome to this big step. What we're doing next is integrating MySQL into a web app. So we saw again how to integrate MySQL with Node in a single file that has nothing to do with the internet or web applications or servers or routes, where we just inserted 500 users at once. Now what we're going to do is take our web app that we've created, super simple, unstyled, but something like this. When we go to the home page here, right now it says you've reached the home page. What we're going to try and do is take it to this. We have 519 users, and that 519 is not hard-coded in. That's coming from our MySQL database with the 500 something that we inserted. So this will change depending on how many users are in our database, and we'll see that that works. So to do that, I have another diagram that took ages to put together. I apologize if it's the colors aren't perfect or there's not nice typography. I wish I was better at that stuff. But here's our trusty red rectangle that represents a client computer. Here's our Express app, this mint green. This time we're requesting the home page / the root route. We ask the server for it by going to this URL, hitting enter. The server says, oh, hang on. It says here that I need to ask MySQL for a user count. Okay, so MySQL is now involved. This arrow represents the connection between Express and MySQL. We've already seen how to do that, how to connect MySQL to a JavaScript file. We ask, basically with a select statement, select count from users. We get a response from MySQL. Hopefully there's not an error. We get a response 519. Then our Express app can take that and say, okay, we're all set now. Here is your final result. Here's the page we get. We have 519 users. All right, so there's a couple steps involved that we need to do. Basically, it boils down to, we've already seen how to make a simple route, and in the last section, we saw how to connect MySQL to a file. Now, we just need to combine them together. So the first thing that we'll do is go over to Cloud9, and we need to connect our app, this file, to our MySQL database. And what we can do is just go to our previous app.js and just copy this code, var connection equals mysql.create connection. So I won't make you watch me type this whole thing again. But remember, this is using the MySQL package, and we already installed that earlier. We ran npm install --save MySQL. If you didn't do that yet, go ahead and do it so that you see it here. And that inside of our join us folder, inside of node modules, we have MySQL. We need that. But we're still missing something, which is we need to require it. var MySQL equals require MySQL. So this is all review. We did it earlier when we made our seed data that inserted 500 users. So we've got this, and let's just make sure that that works without problem. So we'll just start node app.js. Everything looks okay. All right, so now we can focus on interacting with the database now that we've connected to it. But just to reiterate, this database name needs to be the name of the database inside of your MySQL server that you created with the users table. So it's the same as what we were doing earlier if you've been following along. If you named it something else, this has to match. So what we're going to do is, instead of you've reached the home page, we want to find count of users in database, and then we want to respond with that count. So we've got a res.send. Eventually, what we're hoping to do is have something like we have plus count plus users in our database, or something stupid like that. That's what we're hoping to do. Of course, right now we don't have this count variable, so that's what we need to aim to get to. So I'll start by commenting that res.send out. So to find the count of our users in our database, we need to do a connection.query, which we've done before. Remember, it's all the stuff we were doing over here. Connection.query, connection.query, connection.query. And what is the query we want to write? Let's do it in a separate variable. So var, I'll just do q again, equals a string select count star from users. Just like that. if we were to just copy it, go over to our MySQL, we get 500. Okay, so that's what we're hoping to get, but of course through JavaScript. So we've got our query written as a string. Now we just pass it in, connection.query. Then we add in that fun callback where we have error, and let's call it results. Okay, so whatever code is in here will only run when two things happen. First, when somebody requests slash. Then we have to wait for this connection to run the query, which is select count from users. So then when that is done, whether it worked or not, this code runs, and there will either be an error, so we can add our if error, throw error, which is not actually a great thing to do in a web application. What would probably be better is to say, if there's an error, what do we want to do? Redirect the user to a different page or send them a different response, which we can see how to do in a little bit. But we're just going to leave it as that to keep it short. And then otherwise, let's do a console.log results and just see what we get. Okay. So again, to go over this, we connected to our database. Then only when somebody requests slash are we trying to select count from users. We could do it inside of joke if we wanted to, or random num, but the way that our app is going to work, the home route, when we go to the home page, we see, welcome or join us, join the 519 users or whatever it is, and then there's a form at the bottom. So we're just going to do it on the home route. Let's see what happens if I try running node app.js. Looks like we have a syntax error, and that is because we're missing parentheses around error there. Okay, now we're good to go. Now if I try and just go to the home route, not joke, well, joke will work just fine, but if I try and go to the home route, what do you think will happen? And the answer is that we're not responding with anything. Assuming we don't get an error, we're not actually responding with any res.send, so we're not going to see anything over here. It just waits and waits and waits until it gives up. So I'll stop it here. But notice we get this row data packet, a single array with one item in it. So we're going to want to do results 0. And then what is nicer is if we give it that as alias. So we'll say select count as count, just like that. So now if I start the server up again and I refresh the page, this time we get row data packet count is equal to 500. It's inside of an object, so all I need to do is do dot count. So this will print 500 now. So let's save it to a variable, var, we'll just call it count as well. So now we have a variable with the count in it. So then the last step, I'm going to get rid of this pane here and just work over here. But now that we have our data coming back from the query, we're going to want to do a res.send. Now, something that trips people up, is when you're working with callbacks like this, it might seem like this code is going to run after this, but in fact, we have no guarantee of that. What we want to do instead is only run it inside of this callback. So this is a very common pattern in JavaScript, and in Node in particular, is that you have these nested callbacks. And it can get out of control sometimes. There's something called callback hell, but this isn't too bad. It's not bad at all. So we have our route, app.get. When this route is hit, run all of this code. Inside of there, we're defining a query. And we're doing that query, and it takes time. It might take half a second, although that would be pretty long, but it might take, a tenth of a second or something. And so what we want to do is wait until it comes back and run this code. If it's an error, throw the error. Otherwise, select or isolate the count from the results. Then we do a res.send. We have space count space users in our database. Let's try it. And there we go. We have 500 users in our database. And to prove to you that it's working, let's go over here. Let's do an insert into users. And we'll just do an email. And we'll do something we haven't done. So unoriginal here. Austin at gmail.com. Still struggling with the originality there. So we'll insert that single user. Okay. So there now should be 501, and we can double check, and it works. Note that we didn't have to restart the server or anything. That would kind of defeat the purpose if our data was only refreshed whenever the server restarted, because we're going to have people interacting with this. When we set this app up and we finish it up, it will just be left running, in perpetuity until, I don't know, we have to fix something, or I don't know, we launch our startup app. So it will be waiting, just running constantly. So our database will be changing all the time, and it has a connection to that database. It can kind of check in with the database, see how it's working, what's going on, and get the results back and do something with them. So still very simple, but it's a start. So we're connecting with our database. The next thing that we'll need to focus on, which will take us a bit to get there because we have to create the form and talk about HTML and a thing called EJS, but our next goal is to also run the insert query that will insert a new user in. But like I said, to do that, we have to set up the route that will insert, and we have to set up the form to actually do the insert for us. But that's where we're heading.